got Steve Wood here from, basically you're a legend in the Northwest. I'm just going to break it down like that. But you're a good guy. I haven't seen you since 2002. We're doing that Venture All-Stars deal at
Safeco Field.
We're talking about entrepreneurship, and times are kind of like they were back after 2001 a little bit.
In a lot of ways, it is similar. You know, we had the bubble burst in 2001, 2002. There was a period of time there that was just felt really hard to get anything going. Nobody was making investments. Nobody was buying anything. And we actually had it was driven by different things this time, but we had a similar experience, you know, late last year, beginning of this year, where the liquidity completely evaporated. This time it was financially driven, not technology driven, and enterprises just stopped buying. So the market for a lot of companies really went away. Unemployment obviously went up, and you know, all those bad things. You know, people started feeling bad, and
it's just like everything seems frozen. But then what's interesting is every force has an equal force in the opposite direction. So you can cheap office space, and it's actually a good time to start a company.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, the bad thing is that you got to position yourself to make sure you can survive.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, 2002, 2003, the companies who went through that dot-com bubble and figured out how to come out the other end did really well when the other end finally showed up.
Yeah, because you're in the market building brand and ready to.
So there's several things that happen. There's the inexpensive office space and services. There's the availability of very high quality employees. But the other thing that happens is that what I would call stupid money stops flowing. So you know, when you're in the middle of one of those bubbles, you got a whole bunch of small companies and startups funded that really probably should never be funded.
And they kind of create noise in the channel too.
It not only creates noise, it makes it impossible for good business models to succeed, because everybody's in a position where they're giving stuff away for free. And I don't care how good you are, you can't compete with free.
Yeah.
So, you know, what happens when that money finally stops flowing is that then you get back to basics. And you got to figure out what the real business model is. You got to figure out how you're going to make money. And if you're in a position where you can figure some of that stuff out, then you can really take advantage of that, you know, cheap services, cheap office space, great talent, all that other kind of stuff. And you know, who knows how long it'll take? It may be a year, it may be 2 or 3 more years, but whenever that end comes, you're going to be in a great position.
So, being that you've been in a number of different technology positions in the past, 20 years, what do you see kind of now as viable business models and trends, I guess, that are exciting to you?
Well, there's still all this convergence around, you know, networking and social media and mobility.
It seems like mobility is finally about really to break as the chipsets and battery life.
Well, you got netbooks, you've got much more capable mobile devices of all kinds. The carriers, mobile operators are all upgrading their networks as fast as they can to provide more bandwidth. So you got, you know, real good mobile data networks out there in general. Wi-Fi is ubiquitous in various forms. And so you got that combined with, you know, the good old Moore's Law driving the general horsepower and memory capabilities.
Still going on. I mean, the Moore's Law is
still on track, actually. And so, you know, all of that is driving capability and horsepower, and that means that business models can take advantage of that. The things that are not working are not unexpectedly, are the give it away for free kind of business models, right?
you know, and it's. I guess it's interesting to kind of see Twitter. They don't really haven't had a business model. They get a bunch of money, but then they get this huge membership base. But still, it's like, where are they going to flip and turn?
Well, and Facebook,
bills?
but I mean, and Facebook is starting to make money. But those are successes. Twitter is obviously going to be a success. But that's a very long odds lottery play, right? You know, so you know, if you can manage to build up, you know, 300 or 400 million subscribers,
you can turn 1%
then
of that.
you're going to figure out how to be successful. Because in worst cases, Google or Microsoft or somebody's going to buy you for $1 gazillion. It's going to be successful. But for the other 99% of companies who are trying to do various social media things and give it away for free, that's not going to work. So you got to figure out some way to provide enough value that somebody's willing to pay for something. You know,
something that's more of an annuity, like a subscription model that you're getting.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, it can be advertising driven, it can be subscription driven, it can be membership driven. There's a whole bunch of different models, but you got to figure out how to have enough value to actually be generating revenue.
What about the entrepreneur's mindset and, you know, really thinking big and globally versus, you know, what should their mindset be, I guess, is your advice? Some might be thinking too big and not being able to execute, or, you know, what's the vision?
Well, it's always an interesting trade. It always has been an interesting trade-off when you're starting a company. So, you know, these days, competition really is global. So, you've got to at least be thinking global in terms of where the resources are, where the technology is, where the competition is going to come from.
And almost launching too, because China sees you on TechCrunch or these different countries, and they knock your business.
Yeah, the web is available in China too, for the most part. And so, yeah, you're right. So if you're not at least thinking about how you're going to compete,
so think global.
But then on the other side, you got to figure out, at least most people have to figure out some way to start and take steps. You know, you can't immediately launch into global because that takes too much resource, too much money. You're not focused enough. You waste a lot of money. And so you got to figure out how to take steps toward that while keeping that really big goal in mind.
So let's take a break, and we'll come right back. And I just want to hear a little bit about Lego. Is that cool?
Yeah.